This is Rena. She spanned many parts across a large adventure, but before we get into the character itself, I want to talk about the This is Bradachin. Bradachin? Bradachin? It's hard to say how this name goes, but I wasn't really the one who made it. I was only simply the character who played in it. All I know is that there's a great war that Rena had to sadly be in. As you can see, there's a clear divide in the map, signifying the mountains. And when there's a divide, there is conflict. There's a lot of hot points on the map, which some I don't even know. So let's just ask the person who made it. Rena is a very interesting character, the one big difference being the gender of the character. Me being male and Rena being female, it was really hard to voice her. I didn't really speak that much, but when I did, it was in a soft kind of tone. I don't have really the vocal range to have a female voice. I think if I had a favorite memory of Rena, it would be when I was doing something with another character. This other character was called Kronk. It was a big giant lizard folk, way taller than me, way taller than anyone else. But what happened was Kronk had this baby carrier on his chest, and what Rena would do was get in there so that basically what would happen is have Rena in the front on a little baby carrier thing, and Kronk, the big guy, also just carrying this little panda folk, and it made for like an unstoppable duo combo. And that's what I like about Rena and other characters, is that you can make funny instances out of these like normal day things. Another example of how the characteristics of Rena helped the world was there was a king that was needing help, and what we did is that we fought off all these bad guys to save the king. But at the end of the battle, one of his servants comes running in with a book saying, "Oh, king, you need to see this." And Rena, knowing something was up, snatched that book away from him and looked at it itself. Well, that was a bad idea, because the book was able to reverse alignment of a character. So instead of Rena being lawfully good, she became evil. And that went down a long rabbit hole of trying to get Rena back. It's kind of still faded in my memory, but it's an example of how she would sacrifice herself just to like make sure everything is okay and fine. Rena grew up on a small farm. She was one of the children of the farm, the other child being her smaller brother. But what they did for farming was they made bamboo. I know, how original. But what the story is that she grew up on a modest lifestyle of hard work and reward. But that all changed when a mysterious foe appeared. These people came into Rena's farm and burned down nearly everything. They even slaughtered the family that she once lived with. They even burned the house that she slept in. It was terrible, but luckily for her, at that time, she was out at the local town and arrived just when things were wrapping up. To not give herself away, she had no choice but to run, but she couldn't run much because she was exhausted at that time with emotional and physical. She soon collapsed on the ground, but not to worry, a local priest found her and took her into their sanctum. After hearing out the sad story, they decided to quote adopt Rena into the church, and she decided to work and devote herself to the church for nearly many years, up until the time that the church found that she had to leave the church, not because she was a burden, but she had to leave to forge her own path. And so she picked up the way of the cleric to help others in need in the war that is soon to come. She eventually set out and wandered all across the land, but it was soon after she met a party, lizard folk, and many others became her companions on the way. She had many adventures after that, but what she never forgot was the crust of those people who burned down her farm. She never got revenge because she thought herself revenge is just a petty thing. Revenge will never bring back her brother or her family. Revenge will never bring back the pain that she thought. All she can do is fight for a better future and not stick in the past, because the hardest thing to do is accept change. We're more likely wanting to hold on to the past because it's something that we know and are just comfortable with, but Rena had to move on. And sadly, I didn't get to play this part in roleplay, sadly, but you know, you don't get to choose, and you don't get to say what you do in D&D. But what happened is that Rena accepted her fate and she rode on with it. And after the session concluded, the DM did a wrap-up of all the characters, and Rena stayed in touch with all the other companions. Kronk would sometimes stop by, have a cup of bamboo tea or something, but soon after, her friends around her died because she had a very long lifespan and they didn't. So, and eventually she was the only one that remained, sadly, but she didn't have the burden of having sadness of these characters. She was happy to have those experiences rather than sorrow in the ones that are lost. The character would soon die, sadly, because, you know, she is mortal and she does age. But there is many memorials around the world that the DM set up about what we accomplished and what we did. And those memorials and things show up in part 2 and 3. This is a 3-part session and it's still ongoing, but I'm not sure that I'll even be at the part 4, which is sad, but you know, you can't really say what you can't do and can't do.